What does this mean, though? I'm not saying you, but I see a lot of fans on social media. It's not like it's an award, but it's almost like they're flexing it. Like more
No,
so
it's just
the first thing.
to me. To me, it tells me if all circumstances were the same as last season, we were good enough to win the league this year, even without the signings.
Ain't
So
that the problem, though?
all the stuff that people say, oh, Arteta's a bottler, Arsenal shit, we can never get there.
We're not shit, but we did bottle it. Let's be real.
We're clearly
Declan Rice
capable
said
of
it weren't
getting
good enough, Killy, man.
we're clearly capable of getting to 89 points last season. You know something? The 80 something 84 points of last year might actually be enough to win the league this year if Liverpool drop points on the final day of the season.
I hear that, but it's a new season, my
So
brother, and they
that's
didn't. We have to control the
That's
controllables, bro.
2 years out of the last 3 years. Those points totals would have been enough to win the league this year. That just goes to tell me that if we were to have performed to the levels that we did the last 2 years, we would have won the league this year. What was the outlier this year? Major debilitating injuries and a whole lot of players going down similar times. So to me, it's just telling me we have the groundwork. The manager's not the problem. This season clearly it's been the players going down and other issues being the issue on why we've seen the major drop in form. And I do not think that we need to go and look at this season and say, oh my God, and jump to major conclusions off the back of it. Sometimes you just have things don't go your way and you just have to look at it and say to yourself, if all things were equal, we would have probably won it.
But that's the thing about fine margins and small margins. Like I don't think you're wrong, but you look at us in the Premier League or anyone in the Premier League. I'm pretty sure if you talk to any fan base of the 20 teams, yeah, there's obviously 9 times out of 10 you get what you deserve in it. Forget the league purely from how many draws, wins, and defeats. Right? We all know the lines get blurred. Sometimes you deserve to win, you lose. Sometimes you draw when you deserve to lose or win. Sometimes you win when you deserve to lose, and that's actually a case of everyone. That's what champions do. I look at games like Bournemouth where it's with Liverpool where it was on a knife edge, and there's obviously been games that we've clawed back. But then that's where it takes me back to what I said at the beginning, my guy, and that it's another year. And I'm not trying to be disingenuous, but yeah, we could do the points thing or whatnot. And again, there's contexts, there's reasons, there's diagnosis that needs to happen. But then we have to look at the bottom line in which we didn't get over the line. How do we get over the line? And then for you, how do we do that? Because surely everyone's got to take accountability. I've got the most sympathy for the players, and I stand on that. I think the players have been shortchanged, if I'm very honest with you. But at the end of the day, they're the ones out there, so they have to hold that. If we won, everyone would be gassing up Mikel Arteta. I actually rate you as a manager, so I have to hold you to certain standards. You've evidently played a part. I don't want to get at the physios, but we haven't been able to keep people fit. And again, the whole ethos, those that have any sort of say in our recruitment and stuff, the summer was not a summer we came out from and thought, oh, you know what, we was 2 points off City. And even if we get a microscope and look at that, the fact that we was 2 points off, we could even look at the draws and whatnot. And then January, which I don't look at Arteta for January, I don't look at the players. That told me everything about those above them, with the exception of Berta, who just rolled in. So it's just a mixed cocktail of stuff. And at the end of the day, winners win, unfortunately, and losers explain, man. I do want to ask you something as well, yeah, because I remember me and you having a bit of banter.
Liverpool were explaining last season why we acting like Arnie Slot came in and did something ridiculous.
That's the point. That's the point. They've gone from explaining to winning. Pep Guardiola's gone from winning to explaining and talking about community shields.
Sometimes, bro, football's
we are doing a lot of explaining,
Sometimes
bro.
Sports is very simple. The team that's the healthiest, that catches fire, wins.
Okay, so last season then, if we're gonna, since I've not tried to speak about last season, but since we're doing that, the teams that's healthiest and whatnot, last season, where everyone was basically fit.
Last season from before January onwards, Man City were healthy. They caught fire and they won.
But Arsenal, we were there. We were meant to say, people were saying we're falling away. We were there.
And we dropped the ball. Man City were better. Simple.
And the year before that, with one Saliba injury.
And the year before that, they were miles ahead of us. We were not on the same level as them.
But do you not get the point I'm making? It's like 3 different years now where these points are valid.
First year,
the underlying factor is we haven't won.
The first
you could argue with what you said. Liverpool learned their lessons then.
The first year Deluded, we played them over 2 legs. They beat us both times. They whooped our ass both times. Like it was not even a competition, right? Second year, we were more prepared for the big games. But you know what happened? We still got caught up in some of those games lower down the table, the Fulhams, the West Hams. Those were the games that caught us out. This season, again, those same games caught us out. But in actual reality, the issue between last season, the year before, and the first year. And the reason why the first year is so reminisced is because it was the first time teams had to play us where they had to respect us in years. They did not respect us before that. The way that they approached the games was a lot more open. And today, teams are a lot more defensive against us. We face more low blocks. We face more
We
defensive
knew that
blocks
last year, bro.
going into games, even last year. So now,
Nothing's
more of a
changed.
sample size. This
And you know what they
season,
say, if nothing changes,
this
man.
season we just didn't have the same keys to unlock it.
We didn't have any keys. We didn't buy any keys in the summer. Like, what keys?
I agree. I agree.
We didn't put our best foot forward. Everybody has to be held accountable. There's no 100% blaming Arteta. There's no putting no blame on Arteta, all the recruitment, all the players. Everybody is in this. Everything that you're speaking about, we've known about them, you know.
I know, but
Again,
we're not. We're giving. It's not about giving excuses. It's about
nobody
speaking
spoke
about the
about excuses.
perspective.
This is a diagnosis. Like, remove emotion and actually just look at what's in front of us. We know
Okay.
about injuries. We know about injuries at our football club. We know what one injury can do to us. We've seen it with Saliba. I mentioned last year on purpose because everybody was quite fit for the majority of it, right? But at the time, Tomiyasu was a key player. Timber was a new signing. Partey. We missed out on them. This year, shit luck. That is my point. Going back into the summer, of course, injuries, things can happen. I've said this to you before. If we did everything we needed to do in the summer and we still had these injuries, then I would say, you know what, fair enough.
But
The club will
Deluded,
put their
even
best
in the
foot forward.
positions where we're fully stacked up, if I told you Arsenal, who have some of the best depth in the defensive third, would find
And that's
themselves
really been stress tested. This is kind of predictable. Look at the last 2 years or even three. The vast majority, like
is
the
it
majority of
predictable? Did you
the
see? Did
majority
you
of the top six, yeah, the majority of those players, they play for club and country, right? They've probably played in the World Cup, they've played in the Euros, they play in a bunch of pointless friendlies. They were coming into this season in the red zone. Like, you look at the amount of hamstring injuries. My point I was making was we've got enough lived experiences. We've seen Chelsea, Liverpool, Man United have had mad injuries. We've seen what Rodri's done, where Rodri missing for City. We've had enough learned physical experiences, and also they say a wise person learns from someone else's mistakes, right? So we've had enough. We know we need depth. We know we need quality. I know that you mentioned if everybody's fit, but if me and you went through that whole squad, who really and truly doesn't really get injured? There's a lot of quote unquote, and I don't want to be disrespectful, injury prone players. That's my point. Whether it's the staff, whether it's the squad depth, the added quality, changing and evolving tactically, which we going back and we both agree there's nothing significantly kind of better. We've shot ourselves in the foot. That is my point. My point is of saying this is not to talk about how crap Arsenal are and this and that. We just need to remove emotion. Whether you're happy, whether you're sad about Arsenal, at the end of the day, these are the things that stopped us. We've dropped a hell of amount of points from winning positions. We've dropped a hell of amount of points through our inability to score goals. Yeah, our defenders have made mistakes, but at the same time, it's probably been our defensive unit who has stood up to be counted. And when you look at what Martinelli, Kai Havertz, Bukayo Saka, Gabriel Magalhaes, there's defo someone else, Declan Rice, I think at a time. These are predictable hamstring injuries. They're in the red zone.
We're asking two different questions.
We're not asking two different questions. You're not listening to what I'm actually asking. You get emotional.
I'm not even trying to get emotional. I'm quite calm right now.
My guy, man.
I'm quite calm right now. I'm just saying, I'm speaking from the perspective of if we did what we did over the last 2 seasons, not what we faced this season. I'm talking from the perspective of if we did the bare minimum what we did the last 2 seasons, we win this league title this year. Is that not a true statement based on the points tallies that we had over the last 2 seasons?
But you're not listening, because before we started talking about this, I said in general, in isolation, them very points that you're making on screen are valid. But then when we remove on the conversation, how far does that go? We can't do this favorable positions kind of stuff and create fantasies in our life. Unfortunately, people are going to get injured. You're going to lose when you deserve to win. You're going to draw when you deserve to do a bit more, and so on and so forth. Players are going to lose form. We knew this. We went into the season knowing the squad's tiny, knowing we're relying on Bukayo Saka. I'm not even trying to be disrespectful to Marino, who's now went up front, Trossard, who, does his thing, Martinelli. Anyone apart from Saka, they go through patches of scoring. We have this joke on my platform in the last 3 years in that we know we're going to probably score 100 odd goals in all comps. We know we're going to score goals. But apart from Saka, who the hell is going to score goals? And if we want to be a team that is a good team and move over to being a great team, getting over the line, going beyond semi-finals and actually claiming the Premier League title, these are questions that now need to be answered. And this takes me back to what I said in that we went into this season knowing these things. These things have merely just been put under an even bigger microscope, which the general thing for me is, unfortunately, there's going to be a lot of regret in that dressing room or the club. You get where I'm going? That's all I'm saying.
And we know this, but I'm just a little confused because we're talking about two different things. I feel like, am I not listening? I'm literally just listening to everything you
We're
said.
gonna have to agree to
After
disagree.
you said I'm not listening, I literally listened to everything you said, and I've come to the conclusion that I feel like we're talking about two completely different topics.
Well, no, it's all interlinked, but you know what? Fair play, man. Smash the like button and subscribe. Let's go on
Because
from
you're
that.
talking about what's gone wrong, and I'm talking about what
I
could have
beg
gone
you, I
right.
beg you, just watch this back. Just watch it back in slow mo and listen to exactly what I said and the path of the combo. You'll reach any conclusion. I promise you that you're trying to find. Like, cool. If you think we're talking about two different things, all right, cool. I'm not gonna go around in circles. My decision making is therefore better than Martinelli's, man. So progressing. I wanted to ask you about this as well. In fact, you may, but in that, I forgot to ask you something. Yeah, me and you, we had
Your
a little bit
decision
of a
making
back.
is better than Martinelli's.
It is way better than Martinelli's. Clearly, way better than Martinelli's. But I wanted to ask you, yeah, 'cause I remember me and you having a little banter back and forth on one of our platforms, and you was like how Arsenal was set up to dominate, and I said we could be set up to win some trophies. I don't know for the word dominate because in my mind that is what I've seen United do in the early 2000s, what I've seen City probably do recently. Do you still maintain that domination word? Not again. So we're clear on this conversation.
I
Dominate,
think
not win
everyone can
trophies
see.
and whatnot, but dominate.
I think everyone can see Arsenal are two serious attacking signings away from being one of the scariest teams in the league.
Nah, that's not what I asked. Dominate.
Yeah, and I agree. I think we can dominate. I think we're catching a situation where Liverpool are going to have to retool eventually with Mo Salah and Van Dijk, and we're already seeing Man City trying to retool as Pep is going to potentially being exiting the club, and Arsenal currently with the age of our squad and the profile of some of the players we have and potentially some of the players we will be able to buy this summer, we are going to be able to go and strengthen to a level where we can potentially dominate in the foreseeable future. I could see Arteta going on a run where he goes and picks up a couple Premier League titles in the next couple years back to back. Like that's how good we are. We are capable. We should have won. We should be three. We should be at least two-time league title champions right now, Premier League champions right now. We were in a top four of Champions League with Mika Moreno up top, bro. I believe if we go and get a Rodrigo and what do you call it, uh, Gyökeres, that those two signings could elevate Arsenal's attack to not only win the league but to dominate this league.
Do you think a
And
team
then
can,
on top of
apart
that,
from City, do you
and then
really
on
think a
top of
team could
that, we need to
dominate though?
improve our transition game. Go get a midfielder like Eze or a Xavi Simons, and boom, we're set for the next 3-4 years easily.
So what does domination look like to you then? Because you kind of touched on it, but I just want to know
Back-to-back
specifically.
league titles, winning a Champions League in that time, and seeing yourself go through a successful period similar to what Arsene
I
Wenger
hope
went
you're
through.
right, man. I hope you're right. I want to dominate like everyone, but for me to see
Because
Arsenal
there's a lot of
dominate,
things
that
we
would
haven't
that would be
done.
something we haven't done before. So it'd be
Yeah,
nice.
there's a lot of things we haven't done. We need to do. So winning back-to-back league titles would be one way. Going on to win the Champions League would be another way. Seeing your team have sustained success over a 5-year period. These are things that I'm saying when dominate. When I say a decade, obviously I'm being flippant. But when I say realistically, this team is set up to still be successful for the next 5 years minimum.
Is it really?
It
5 years.
is. It is. We have a shell of a solid defense. We have a decent goalkeeper that we could, even if we wanted to, we could upgrade on with Garcia. We have midfielders like Declan Rice who could be here for the next couple of years. Mendy's coming through the door. We're going to be signing a striker in Victor Gyökeres potentially, if not Sesko, whoever it is. I back them to be at least a 15 to 20 plus goal scorer a season. And you know, Arsenal have not had too many 19 plus goal scorers since Aubameyang.
God
So
forbid.
I think this team, and you know something, Brentford did something we've never been able to do in the Premier League era. Do you believe that? Brentford have two 19 plus goal scorers in the Premier League.
How
We've
many times this
never
season
had
have you
that.
seen us win 2 games in a row, man? But yeah, I'm diversing. So let me be devil's advocate on that, yeah, because I see what you're getting at on one hand, yeah. But then when I look at it again, you said however many years, right? Mikel Arteta, I don't know for internal pressure at the football club, but I think everyone understands if you don't get any sort of silverware, people are going to be onto you. He's just signed a 3-year deal. So he's got 3 years. At this moment in time, Magalhaes, who's 27, Bukayo Saka, and William Saliba, I expect all of them to sign new deals, but there's speculation over their futures until 2027. Then you look at the Martinellis, the Trossards, and the Odegaards. Then we've got some good players. Are we really? And I don't think you're wrong with the strikers and what you said about Zubimendi, but they ain't walked through the door. Are we really, if all of these things are talking points, are we really as set up as quote unquote suggested?
Deluded, I believe we are tactically set up perfectly. I think the issue is the personnel has
You don't
always
think
been.
Arteta has to evolve
I don't think I think Arteta has shown evolution. It's just
this year?
he stays within the system, but he shows evolution in how he utilizes players differently throughout the seasons. So, for example, the way he used Xhaka is different to the way that he used Rice. The way that he used Partey when he had Xhaka there, and the way that he used Partey now that he has Rice there is different. The way that he used Odegaard his first season, allowing to be a second striker and score, to then later on in that first season to be, what do you call it, more of a deeper playmaker, and now being a deeper playmaker again. He utilizes players differently and he adapts to games depending on being against City, having to go defensive, being against Liverpool without some of your best defenders, having to
Do you think he's
find
evolved
ways
this
to
year?
counter. We do have different ways of
Do
playing in
you
different ways.
think he's evolved this year?
Obviously, he's been struggling this season, as the whole team has struggled. I've
Yeah,
not
no, you're
seen.
right on that because I only asked
But
you
one
that
thing I have
because,
seen.
bro, we still go long with Trossard through the 9. He still does it, and I'm not criticizing or praising. I'm calling it as I see it. We still live by the sword, die by the sword. We don't change things enough. You still, again, it's probably going back to the recruitment, but we lost to PSG. You watch how we played in the first leg versus the second leg, or even the first 20 minutes. Any coincidence, Partey's back, Rice is back in his role. So we still have that thing of not really mixing and blending. We're still kind of playing the same way. So do you really think he's evolved enough? Because personally, I think this year, whether he's a success at Arsenal or whatever he does in his life as a manager, I feel every manager, there's a year in your career where you learn a lot about yourself. And I think this is Mikel Arteta's year, whether it's evolving your tactics, trusting certain players, actually having more conviction in your ideas. And I extend that to the whole club. But yeah, do you really think he's evolved this year?
Let me ask you,
Realistically.
does this answer your question? I think this has been Arteta's best job as a manager this season. With the amount of
Wait, what?
adversity he had to deal with. I know that's going to piss off a lot of people.
Oh,
With the
come
amount of
on, man. This is a
No, no,
madness.
no. I am not even
It's
trolling. I
mad.
am dead serious. You look at any of my tweets, I've said
Let
it.
me hear you say that again, because I might have heard the wrong thing. Please.
Bro, go on my Twitter, check highlighted tweets. We've spoken about this before. I said this with the amount of adversity we've had this season, with Saka being injured, with Odegaard being injured, with Gabriel being injured, with all these players being in and out of the squad. This has been his biggest challenge throughout his entire career at Arsenal. And this season, for him to go to highlights, you should see it. Highlights, just type in highlights. It should be the second tweet. There you go, the second tweet right there. I don't think enough credit is given to Mikel Arteta for having Arsenal still competitive with the amount of adversity he had to face this season. Hence
But
why.
what credit?
Because look at it, where we
I
were
have
at
to
the
ask
time.
these questions. What? No. What credit? Like,
Where we
what
were at the
credit should you
time,
get?
we had worse injuries
Because
than
you're
Man
known as
City.
being one of the best managers in the world and the league, and you rightly showed it in some aspects with the top 6 and how you've rebuilt the club. And I do agree with what Mikel Arteta says. Other teams might have crumbled, but how far does that go? If we've been, as much as people banter us, if we've been the second best in the league in whatever years, we should be able to do what other people do. We should be able to maintain our position
But
at
how
the very
far?
minimum. So what credit, bro?
But how far
Credit.
can you how far can you go without your talisman? How far can you go with a midfielder as your
Which is
striker?
why I go
How,
back to when you said we was mixing and blending kind of
no,
stuff
no,
in
but
that, again, people above him.
everything goes in different conversations. When we're talking about the club, we can talk about
Not really.
transfer.
It's all intercepting.
No, but I
And
feel
it's
like
only when it all became an L that you saw things. And I'm not even saying this is the right things, but you saw Tini used a bit more. You saw Zinchenko playing in midfield. You saw little other bits and pieces in which you go back to, what was it? Probably around the time, it must have been January, Norwich away, that kind of period when we was kind of forced to. But my thing to you is not questioning
I
whether he's
agree
done
on
that
that.
or not. No, my question is not to you whether he's, mixed and blended or whatever you said, yeah. My question is, what credit does he deserve? I'm
Okay.
just genuinely asking that. Credit. Keyword credit. Like what credit? Because you're a good manager, I'll tell you. You should be doing this, not
All right.
credit though, bro.
Let
Like,
me
does he
break it
need a
down.
pat
Let
on the
me
back?
break it down into two pieces. First, what you just said, I agree with. He should have done more with
I
his
gotta
squad
ask you these
management.
questions, my boy.
When he should have done more with his squad management. I agree with you there. He did not do a good enough job using his squad earlier in the season, so
One
we
love for the
didn't
super chat, Ricky. But go
we
on,
did
go
not
on.
have as much injuries later on. I fully agree with you there. But in the same breath, there was moments where the team was so wearing thin that he had to start using other players, and he did do that. And I do think there's a level of credit that needs to be given to him based on the fact that you look over at Manchester City, who won the league 4 years in a row, who people said going into the season have
Yeah, they
the
fell
best
off.
squad, have the best squad in the league, and they crumbled to the point where they were losing and they only won one game out of 14. They were basically out of the Champions League almost until the final day, and they just got into the final hat. Where Arsenal, as much as whatever you want to say about the cup runs and everything else, we were in a situation where we were in a semi-final of the Champions League, semi-final of the League Cup,
Big up Arteta on the Champions League, man. I'll say
third
that much.
third in the group in the league phase of the Champions League, where we only lost to PSG and Inter throughout the whole tournament, and also in the league up until Bukayo Saka got injured in January, we were still touching distance of the league title. As much as anyone wants to say Liverpool were 9 points this, 7 points that, we've seen
City
nine
been on
points
top of the table longer than
We've
us this
seen
season, you know.
we've seen 9-point leads dwindle away like this. So I don't want to hear about this lead and that lead. The reality situation is up until Bukayo Saka got injured, I could say the title race was still on. The moment he got injured, that's where people could say, you know what? That's where things went down the drain.
But I disagree slightly, but that's where because you mentioned the Saka thing, that's where I made the point about the club, because it's one thing to look at Arteta and praise him or critique him, the same with the players. But then you look at the club, you can see your talisman's gone. Them times there, a lot of people are injured. Again, whether you tried or didn't get players in, those above Mikel Arteta, you told me everything I needed to know. Because if like they were with guys thinking and 9 points could be clawed, and we're not out of anything at this moment in time, they did not draft in help. This is where my faith is kind of in Berta, but at the same time, Arteta can't do it alone, Berta can't do it alone, players can't do it alone. This is where the club, for me, there's been a lot of lip service in the last 18 months in particular, and it now needs to correlate. Like, it needs to correlate. But again, bro, what credit though? I don't think you're wrong in the things you're saying, but what credit? Like, credit.
When did I tweet that? What date is that?
February.
At that point, we were still competitive in all competitions.
Oh, so he doesn't
Except
deserve
for the
credit
FA
anymore
Cup.
in that case.
What?
So because it was, are you saying because it was in February, like you've kind of changed? It's not a credit thing; it's more fair play, gaffer.
No, fair play. But at that point, at this point, I would say it's not give him credit. I would say it's more he's had his most challenging season to come off.
100%. You only learn when you're challenged. Big up rants.
He's had his most challenging season, and at worst, he replicated the same league finish as the year prior and had a better Champions League campaign. So as much as we want to criticize the league, the reality is there has been some level of progression in the Champions League, but in the league, it's
There's
it's
been
been
progression in the last 2 years, but the league is the true barometer of your talent. Like, I think people have to part things over.
okay.
The
So if
overlining
that's the
factor
case,
is
if
Arsenal
that's
never got
the
over the
case, I
line,
don't
bro.
want to hear nobody tell me they're better than me, except for Liverpool. If the league is the only barometer of who you really are, I don't want to hear
I said
anybody
true.
talk about who's better.
Obviously, we're in 4 competitions. Yeah, we've got to 2 semi-finals. We didn't get over the line. Again, my key word of this is getting over the line. Okay, Champions League, near enough faultless. It ended in heartbreak. Big up the gaffer. For if I isolate Mikel Arteta, for someone that's been managing for 2 years in the Champions League, great account of yourself. It adds to the frustration. Obviously, nobody expected us to do what happened against Real Madrid. All the other titles became obsolete. That was the only kind of saving grace for the season, and the adversity and all of that. But and again, they deserve it. People say, and I don't think it's necessarily wrong, yeah, in a sense of we might be even better suited to the bigger games and the European games, and we do F up in the kind of smaller games and whatnot. He's good for them tactical battles. Champions League, fair play. League Cup, don't want to waffle about it. End of the day, using two-legged semi-finals, bottled both of them. FA Cup should have won, shagged it. It is what it is. But the league is a true barometer of how good your team is, purely because it's 38 games, bro. It is